In every school, there's that one place nobody's allowed to go. For me, it was the old wooden door at the very back of the school library. It was always locked, with a heavy brass keyhole and no handle. No one knew what was behind it. Most students didn't care, but I did. I'm David, and I've always believed that the best stories are hidden in plain sight. My mission became clear. Get behind the door. I started spending all my free time in the library. I wasn't just reading, I was observing. I learned the librarian, Mrs. Gable, had a specific routine. She was strict, but she had a soft spot for anyone who genuinely loved books. So, I became that person. I'd ask her for recommendations, discuss plot twists, and help her reshelve books when she was busy. Slowly, I started to see a shift. Her stern looks turned into small smiles. One rainy afternoon, I was helping her catalogue a new shipment of books. I finally gathered the courage to ask. "Mrs. Gable," I said, trying to sound casual, "what's behind that locked door in the corner?" She paused, looking at me over her glasses. For a moment, I thought I'd crossed a line. But then she sighed, a sound like the turning of an old page. "That's the archives, David. It holds our most precious, fragile books. They're too delicate for regular handling." My heart leaped. Could I possibly see them someday? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She studied my face, then nodded slowly. "You've shown great respect for this library and its treasures. I think you've earned it." She reached into her desk drawer and pulled out a large, ornate brass key. My key. She handed it to me and said, "Be careful. Some of those books are older than the school itself." My hand trembled as I took the key. I walked to the door, the key feeling heavy with history. It slid into the lock with a satisfying click. I pushed the door open, and a scent of old paper, leather, and dust filled the air. The room was small, lined with glass-fronted cabinets. Inside, ancient-looking books with gold leaf lettering set like sleeping dragons. It was magical. As I carefully browsed the titles, one book caught my eye. It was a thin leather-bound journal, tucked away on a bottom shelf. It didn't look like the others. I gently opened it, and a small, folded piece of paper fell out. It wasn't a library card. It was a note, written in elegant, faded ink. It read, "The journey begins where words take flight, but wisdom rests in shadowed light. Seek the poet who saw the world in a grain of sand." My heart started pounding. This wasn't just a collection of old books. It was a puzzle, a treasure hunt, a grain of sand. William Blake. I rushed out of the archive and over to the poetry section. I found the collection of Blake's poems, and just as I hoped, tucked between the pages of Auguries of Innocence, was another note. This one said, "Your next clue sleeps where titans of science dream. Find the man who defied gravity with an apple and a dream. Isaac Newton." I sprinted to the science section. This was incredible. The hunt led me all over the library, from history to philosophy, each clue a clever riddle pointing to a famous author or thinker. I was piecing together a puzzle left by someone decades ago, a student, just like me. The final clue was the most cryptic. The end of the search is not in a chest of gold, but in the story you've now been told. Look to where all journeys begin. Where all journeys begin. I thought for a moment. The front desk. The checkout counter where every book starts its journey with a reader. I went back to Mrs. Gable's desk. Taped to the underside, almost invisible, was the final note. It said, "Congratulations. You have found the treasure. It was not a prize to be won, but a path to be walked. The knowledge you've gained, the connections you've made between history, art, and science, that is the true treasure of this library. Now, pass it on." I stood there, breathless. The student who wrote this wasn't hiding gold or jewels. They were sharing a secret. The real adventure is the pursuit of knowledge itself, the thrill of the chase, the joy of discovery that was the prize. I looked up at Mrs. Gable, who was watching me with a knowing smile. She knew all along. The locked room wasn't just to protect the books. It was a test, waiting for the right student to come along. And now, it's my turn to keep the secret, to wait for the next curious mind ready for an adventure. Because the greatest treasures aren't things you find. They're the things you learn along the way. Thanks for joining me on this journey. If you love stories about mystery and discovery, make sure to like and subscribe for more. See you next time.